Good evening, I'm George Strait, coming to you tonight from the beautiful campus of the University of California at San Diego. Founded just over 40 years ago, UC San Diego is already ranked among the top 10 public universities in the country. UCSD is one of the jewels of the entire University of California system, where every day faculty, staff, and students pursue knowledge in the public interest. Tonight we'll show you some of those efforts and reveal how, once again, that California is a state of minds. Tonight, the dismal fate of unwanted pets and what veterinarians at UC Davis are doing to save them. From there, we'll tromp through some Napa Valley vineyards as Berkeley researchers use radar to find water. Then to San Diego for a crash course on video games. But first, a tour of the University of California's newest campus. It's in San Francisco, and as Larissa Brennan reports, it not only doubles the size of UCSF, but it also serves as the cornerstone to one of the largest redevelopment projects in the city's history.
Trumpets literally heralded the dedication ceremony last fall for the University of California San Francisco Mission Bay campus. The festivities gave faculty, students, and staff the chance to tour the site, which will be devoted to health sciences research, innovation, and graduate-level teaching. UCSF Chancellor J. Michael Bishop presided over the ceremony in front of the sweeping six-story Genentech Hall, the first building completed since construction began at the Mission Bay site in 1999.
This is a signal event for UCSF, and it is among the largest projects to focus on human health in the United States. But it is more than just a collection of buildings. It's a bold statement about our future. Our past is distinguished, but we believe our best is yet to come.
The Mission Bay campus is just 1.5 miles south of downtown San Francisco. The 43-acre site is considered the anchor of a 303-acre redevelopment project. Amy Netchess of the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency is the senior project manager for the Mission Bay plan.
Mission Bay is an enormous opportunity for the university and the city. It is the last really large parcel of land near downtown. The city is only 49 square miles. This is a very, very large project in the context of San Francisco. It's the largest redevelopment project in a very long time.
Pacific Bell Park, home to the San Francisco Giants, is part of the redeveloped Mission Bay neighborhood. Proposed residential housing units, including one for seniors, have become reality. Also in the works are a community park, a public library, and various retail stores, all accessible to a light rail system. These are all part of a comprehensive community plan designed to accommodate the neighborhood's expected growth.
Mission Bay as a whole will create 31,000 jobs, of which nearly over 9,000 will actually be university jobs by the time it's fully built out. That represents 5% of all the jobs in San Francisco right now, so that's a huge economic engine. We think that UCSF really is the anchor for Mission Bay in many ways. Most importantly, we hope that it will begin to attract private biotechnology and private research companies as spin-offs from the campus to build in the area.
Dr. Charles Craik, whose research focuses on understanding how enzymes, including proteases, function in biological processes ranging from AIDS to cancer, was the first scientist to move across town from the Parnassus campus to his current quarters at Genentech Hall. Craik's lab was instrumental in identifying and characterizing proteolytic enzymes that could be targeted and inhibited, one of which was the HIV protease. This led to the current therapeutic AIDS drugs.
So could we use that same approach to apply that to other diseases? We're not naive about this. We're also not a pharmaceutical company. We're here to do basic research to identify pathways where then pharmaceutical companies could get involved and have an impact. We have a chance here with Mission Bay, and if you look around here, there's the opportunity to have an industrial park surrounding us that will be biotech, pharmaceutical companies, could be IT as well, but it's going to be now a very fertile environment where professors can now be doing their work and can interact very smoothly by walking across the street and interacting with biotech that would not be around here. There's virtually none in San Francisco right now. So UCSF has a chance to really be, kind of the nucleus, the catalyst for a lot of this to occur and to be done right. I think we're already well on our way to do that.
Like the overall Mission Bay plan, the UCSF Mission Bay campus will be built in phases over the next 15 to 20 years. At full build-out, the campus expects to have 20 structures, including a cancer research center and the headquarters for the California Institute for Quantitative Biomedical Research, or QB3, a cooperative effort among UC San Francisco, UC Berkeley, and UC Santa Cruz. In all, more than 9,000 people will eventually work and study at the Life Sciences campus, a campus that is expected to not only revitalize a city, but to revolutionize human health. In San Francisco, I'm Larissa Brannon.
From healthcare for people to healthcare for pets. And I mean lots of pets. Paul Fontenauer has the story of the Animal Shelter Medicine Program at UC Davis.
Seeing animals dropped off at county-run shelters is like watching prisoners admitted to death camps.
Come on, sweetie.
Not much hope of ever getting out alive. Dogs and cats are dropped off at this shelter by the thousands each month. Shelter employees make a quick assessment of the animal's health, a photo ID, and a kennel number is assigned, and off it goes to await an undetermined future. Shelters have become landfills for discarded animals. Nationwide, it is estimated that up to 12 million dogs and cats are abandoned each year. Sadly, at least 70% are euthanized. Many because shelters don't offer aggressive health care programs. They need help. The School of Veterinary Medicine at UC Davis has taken steps to provide health care to shelters so that more dogs and cats can survive and eventually be adopted. What shelters desperately need are animal doctors willing to work in rugged environments. Dr. Kate Hurley visits dozens of these places as director of the UC Davis Shelter Medicine Program.
At a shelter like this, it's an incredibly challenging situation for a veterinarian. I really think battlefield medicine is a good metaphor for it. You have hundreds of animals here. They're sick, they're stressed, they're coming in with maybe no medical care in their lives. And the veterinarian is trying to respond to all that, take care of them with very few resources.
The vet school at UC Davis recognized that there were unique problems with shelters like infectious diseases and behavior problems associated with long-term confinement. Veterinarians really didn't understand these inhospitable environments. Dr. Niels Peterson, director of companion animal health at UC Davis, knew that these challenges needed to be met.
Most of our small animal students are prepared to deal with the single sick animal that belongs to an owner. They're not prepared to deal with disease outbreaks that occur in these large multiple animal facilities. And so, given the increasing importance of shelters and the fact that now maybe as many as a fourth of our animals for pets are obtained from shelters, we thought that the time had come for us to get involved.
So UC Davis has made a commitment to shelter medicine. Between endless rows of concrete and wire kennels, Dr. Cindy Delaney moves swiftly, treating dogs and cats who have just been deposited at the shelter. Some have been hit by cars or abused by their owners, or just plain sick. Most shelters don't have an on-site veterinarian. This shelter is one of the fortunate ones. Delaney works 12-hour days.
There's days that are bad and days that are good, but I come to work every day because I know that I will help an animal that day and probably many animals that day. And I know that if I don't go in, those animals may die just because I didn't come to work.
Infectious disease control is the biggest issue most shelters face. With dozens of animals living in cramped quarters, upper respiratory ailments are common. Hurley provides the animal care staff with medical information to wage the massive battle of keeping large animal populations healthy.
Well, what we're finding with our research is that in these cases that just persist and they've been on a couple different antibiotics, most often it's actually a virus that's causing the sign.
Hurley provides information on the most effective way to deal with diseases at animal control facilities. UC Davis also accepts disease specimens from shelters around the country.
Infectious disease is a huge problem in shelters across the country. One of the things that's really exciting about this program is the fact that this lab has been dedicated solely to understanding those problems.
Shelters are helped immeasurably by the lab's sophisticated techniques to identify the disease quickly. UC Davis is urging shelters to hire on-site doctors.
Before I came here, this shelter had no veterinarian at all, so in general, animals that were sick were euthanized regardless of how adoptable they were, and animals that were injured were euthanized even if they could have been treated because there was no staff for that. So UC Davis got a veterinarian at this facility, and they've also worked with us to identify the problems that we have here as far as infectious disease, how best to control it, putting in place cleaning protocols and things like that. And also they're helping us with the behavior aspect of the shelter as far as identifying behavior problems in animals and assessing which animals are adoption candidates.
Not all shelters have the same standards for temperament testing. UC Davis's Sheila Sigerson is working to develop such standards so that animals can be judged uniformly.
So what I recommend is that shelters learn how to evaluate dogs. Shelters learn how to do a standardized test so that everybody is doing the test the same way. And when they have dogs who are obviously very fearful and obviously displaying signs of stress, we take steps to decide whether it is appropriate to put that dog in a foster home or in another place where that dog will have a better chance of finding a home.
This UC Davis shelter medicine program is making an impact.
It gives us a baseline of what we should be doing out there. Before this program was available, shelters were just, cleaning different ways. They didn't know about disease control. There was no standard. Obviously, making them healthier makes them more adoptable. It does save lives daily.
Claire Bout says that shelters need to be welcoming to the public, the employees, and volunteers. Then, she says, we will begin to see euthanasia rates go down and adoptions go up. The nonprofit Animal Rescue Foundation, or ARF, has become what most shelters are not, a beautiful facility for dogs and cats in Walnut Creek, California.
How are you guys doing today? Are you coming in to look at a dog or a cat?
Animals live in cozy glass condos where they are displayed to potential adopters. This foundation has a no-kill philosophy, which means that all animals are adopted. The veterinarian, for example, has a large surgical suite to perform operations.
The main difference is that once the animal comes here, we have a commitment to them to get them well, unless, if they're really not getting better or have an incurable disease. So I think that's the problem at local shelters. They have, if they're not better in 2 weeks, sometimes they get put to sleep.
Terry Taylor and her daughter were shopping for a cat and were amazed at how nice this shelter looked.
This place is just incredible. It's clean, and my feeling was that we'd get a healthier pet here than at the pound.
This shelter also provides an education center so kids can learn to care for their newly adopted pets.
It's very important that you give your dogs a rabies shot so they don't get rabies.
The foundation's director says all shelters have much to learn from the UC Davis program.
It's herd medicine. So now with this partnership with Davis, I think we're learning how to take better care of the animals, we're taking better care, and we're having reasonable expectations from the veterinary community.
Dr. Hurley says learning how to make shelter life more comfortable for the animals remains the goal.
I'll be honest, I love this work. I don't do it because I'm noble. I do it because I'm a vet, because I want to make a difference. I want to save lives. And as sad as it is that an animal might lose its life because of something as simple as a cold, it's really great when you can save an animal's life just by treating its cold, just by clearing up its ear mites or cleaning its teeth. And when we get into the shelter medicine program, there's 10 million animals a year in shelters in the United States. If we make a difference to even 1% of those animals, that's 10,000 lives that we've touched with this program.
Paul Fotenauer reporting in Davis.
Our next story is about water, radar, and wine. Now, California is legend for producing some of the world's great wines, but vintners will tell you that finding the right combination of soil, water, and grapes can be a puzzle. Here's Julie Wong.
On the grounds of the Robert Mondavi Winery in Napa Valley, UC Berkeley researchers are looking for something valuable. Not hidden treasures, but hidden moisture in the soil. They're using a technology called ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. It's commonly used for locating buried objects, but researchers are testing another use for GPR, mapping soil moisture beneath the Earth's surface. UC Berkeley professor of civil and environmental engineering, Yoram Rubin, is the lead investigator of the radar mapping project.
We would like to say in science that we have a problem and then we look at a solution. In fact, here we had a solution and we looked at a problem.
Rubin applied his high-tech solution to a problem faced by all winemakers: how to better monitor soil moisture in their vineyards. Wine grapes are sensitive to the moisture they receive. Too little water and the vine can get overstressed to the point where the crop is lost. Too much water leads to leafy vegetation at the expense of fruit quality. Having accurate information about the soil's water content would help winemakers grow quality wine grapes. The technique that wineries now use to measure soil moisture involves taking soil samples from different spots within a vineyard. However, this technique is costly and invasive and doesn't always generate an accurate picture of the soil moisture, since the soil from one part of the vineyard may be quite different from the soil just a few meters away. That's why Daniel Bosch, Director of Vineyard Operations for Mondavi, embraced the GPR research.
With the GPR, we're trying to get two things out of it. First of all is an understanding of water use. So as we have a better understanding of water use, we can control berry size better. And berry size is important because of its relationship to wine quality. The smaller the berry, in general, the more concentrated the wine, especially in red varieties. The other one we're trying to do is we're trying to get a larger picture of the entire vineyard. Rather than just one vine, how is 10,000 vines or 1,000 vines or 100 vines looking? And as we understand that, we can then adjust our vineyard practices to make them more uniform.
UC Berkeley research engineer Susan Hubbard has been field testing the GPR at Mondavi and Dellinger wineries.
So this is the ground penetrating radar unit we've been using. It's commercially available off the shelf. This particular one is from Sensors and Software in Canada, and it has several different components. This is a transmitting antenna. It sends a high frequency electromagnetic signal into the ground. That wave, the speed of that wave travels as a function of moisture content. The signal is detected by this receiving antenna right here, and actually the signal looks very similar to a seismogram. We see a lot of squiggles, and it's received as a function of time. What we have right here is an odometer. This has a little recording, little dials on the front part of it, and we can set that and tell the system how frequently to collect data. For example, right now we're having it collect measurements every 5 centimeters as we're walking through the vineyard. It's all connected via these coaxial cables back here to just our recording system. We have a console that really is taking information for the computer, that's sending it to the GPR system. The GPR system sending it back to the console. It's all run by just a standard 12-volt marine battery, and we have just a laptop right here where we can collect the data. What we have recorded on the screen is just an example of a GPR signal. So we can look at this out in the field and process it a little bit. Typically we take it back to our offices and play with it, and that's where we really use the signal to estimate moisture content.
Hubbard drags the GPR up and down each row of the vineyard, skimming the soil's surface. In just one block of the vineyard, she collects 20,000 data points about soil moisture 5 or 10 centimeters apart. The data generated so far has impressed Mondavi's Bosch.
It's like having a candle in a cave and you're looking at all the walls. I mean, this is going to give us a 3D image of what's going on with fairly great depth.
In the future, the soil moisture data may help Bosch and other viticulturists better determine which grape variety to grow on certain plots of land. For instance, Cabernet Sauvignon and other red wine grapes are planted in drier soils, while Chardonnay and other white wine grapes do best in moister soils. This kind of targeted approach, Hubbard says, saves water and energy. Winemakers can give the vines just the amount of moisture they need. GPR also helps the environment by reducing agricultural pollution.
If you give a plant more water than it needs, more water than it can use by its root system, then the rest of that water is flushed into the ground and ultimately into the water table and into our groundwater, from which we extract and use for drinking. And so if there are pesticides associated with a farming, which there often are, then those pesticides are also flushed down into the groundwater.
Hubbard says many of the crops grown in California's orchards can also benefit from the soil moisture data. But first, the ground-penetrating radar will have to be adapted to work in larger fields.
Ultimately, what we would like to see is that these equipment can be hooked to the back of tractors, and in the front of the tractors we have a computer and a GPS system, and the tractors can go up and down the rows doing their traditional farming, but at the same time they're getting information about moisture content as they're pulling the system behind. That's a few years down the road.
For now, Hubbard and others are focused on the vineyards, finding out just how much water will make good wine. This is Julie Huang in Napa Valley.
Finally tonight, there's a computer science course here at UC San Diego that's really about fun and games. Video games. Doug Ramsey has the story.
There are video games you won't play at your local arcade, on your Xbox or PlayStation, or even online. First-person shooter games like Shrapnel, Robo-Strike, and Gory Toon Massacre XP. Racing games like Los Cartos Locos and Fusion Racing. Classic strategy games such as Spellcraft, IO, and Star Control. That's because these games were designed by computer science seniors at UCSD as their main requirement for one of the hottest courses on campus.
They're in their last quarter of their senior year in college. You know, what they really want to do is graduate and move on. But they're in here for full 10 weeks, working day and night, trying to get these games to work. And in the end, they all succeed.
That's Jeff Volker, the popular professor in the Computer Science and Engineering Department at the Jacobs School of Engineering, who teaches this course just once a year and limits enrollment to 30 students. The course is called Software System Design and Implementation, but it's known better on campus as the video game course.
They get to take everything that they've learned as an undergraduate student in our major and apply it to something that they're very excited about, which is building large-scale, multiplayer, network, real-time 3D games. They take all the knowledge they learned about algorithms and operating systems and graphics and networking, and in this course they take it and they apply it. And they don't just apply it to a project that we specify and they have to do, they apply it to something that they're very excited about and very passionate about.
The class is split into 5 teams. Each team has 2 members who specialize in graphics, 2 in underlying software, and 2 in networking. They program in the C++ language, writing 5,000 to 10,000 lines of code for an original online game that must be playable by at least 4 people at the same time. They report weekly to Volker on their progress.
We essentially give them a blank slate, and they have to fill everything in. And that goes from what you see on the screen, the type of game that you wind up playing, the goals of the game, what you see, how you interact, and how everything is implemented underneath the covers. They're writing thousands and thousands of lines of code at a relatively rapid pace, and often things just go wrong, and it's really tough to track down why. They run into bugs that aren't well known, and certainly I don't know the answer to their problems. And one of the things that they have to do is they have to learn how to solve the problems themselves.
Sumit Singh and Chris Rossner worked on Los Cartos Locos.
I had never really worked on components like sound or graphics because you usually don't get to, especially in class projects. So that was something new which I was going to be doing.
This class has taught me a lot about, what it involves to be on a big team project, how much actual work is involved, and what sort of skill set you need to succeed in making games.
Not satisfied with producing a straightforward racing game, the designers of Loops went a step further.
It's a 3D racing game. All of our physics, all of our collision, everything is done in 3D.
Even more than racing games, among Volker students, so-called first-person shooter games are most popular. Some, such as Carnage, combine elements of racing and shooting. Others are pure shooters, like Gory Toon Massacre XP and Shrapnel.
In Shrapnel, You're in a souped-up spacesuit inside of a rotating spacecraft orbiting around a planet, and you're in teams going around trying to hunt down the enemy and eliminate the enemy before they eliminate you.
Panayoti Haritatos and Tim Foley worked on Shrapnel.
I'm a game player. That's what I like to do in my free time, and the chance to make games, obviously. I think I have somewhat of a creative nature, so the chance to actually be involved in making a game is something I've always wanted to be able to do.
When you're enjoying what you're working on, it doesn't matter how much work it takes. You're going to do what you can to make it be the best end product you can come up with.
After graduation, most computer science students end up working on large, complex projects that require teamwork and organizational skills. Volker says the video game course is a dry run for the real world.
The skills that they learned in this course are applicable not only to going into a games company and working for games, but any sort of software engineering position that they might go into. It's something that they will be doing all the time when they go off into industry or the next stage of their career, whether it is programming at a company or it's in graduate school working on research.
For those who want to continue with game design, Volker invites top industry executives to attend the student presentations. Matt Sievertson, the manager of technology for Sony Online, was so impressed that he offered jobs to 2 students. One of them was Andy Skirvin. He now designs games for third-generation cell phones, even while he works on a master's degree at UCSD.
It's the one class at UCSD that I took in computer science that actually approximated like a real-world environment. You have a team of 6 people and everyone has their roles. It's a very self-motivated class. The professor doesn't make you do the work. It's the class that kind of makes you do the work.
Everybody tells you that game programming is the most demanding, worst paying programming job you can find, and it really takes dedication. And so I kind of took this course to find out whether or not I had that kind of dedication.
Does he?
Definitely. The students did great. They not only met my expectations, but they far exceeded them. It's just amazing to see what they're able to do in just 10 weeks. This is the reason why we have the curriculum that we have in the computer science department, is if you go through the curriculum, then by the end, you have the skills and the talent to be able to do a kind of course like this.
Honestly, if I'm looking for a new hire right out of college, the first place I would go is to see who's coming out of that class and see what they've done there, because that's, they're going to know what needs to be done, and they're going to have a step ahead of everybody else.
This is Doug Ramsey in San Diego.
World-class academics with a world-class view. That's our program for tonight. I'm George Strait. Thank you for joining us on State of Minds. We'll see you again in April. Good night.